Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Donna Just Being Real, the only way to be. And tonight's topic is Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, the defamation trial, day 11. So I'm going to be playing some of the clips that happened today in the courtroom. I was able to watch some, I couldn't catch all of it. So I'm actually kind of watching with y'all kind of like the first time, but some of it I did catch. So I'm just going to play the clips instead of playing the whole thing. The whole thing's like 8 hours. And I don't want to keep y'all here all night, okay? But just check out the clips. It's really interesting. And, basically to sum it up what's going on, I guess everybody should already know because it's all over social media. But Mr. Depp is suing for $50 million over an opinion piece written by Ms. Heard in the Washington Post in which she claims to have experienced domestic abuse. Ms. Heard is countersuing. Interesting. So the people that's coming in, please hit the like, and the people that's watching the replay, please share your thoughts and opinions in the comment section and tell me what you think of this whole thing. Are you watching? Are you keeping up with all of this that's happening in court? Because we're on day 11. And also if people watch replay, tell me what's your favorite Johnny Depp movie, or if not, you're not a big fan of him. I don't know. What do you think of the whole thing? All right, so let me greet the people that's in here. Then I'm going to get ready to start playing some clips. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. All right, who do we have up in here? Teresa Myers, blessings to you, beautiful blessings to you. And also our co-host this evening is the real Jack Newtown. All right, and I got my and good night to everyone that's in the chat. I got my purple hearts. Don't need a man. Stop telling me I do. Hugs and kisses to you, beautiful. There go Jack and Ryan. What's up? Hey, Donna and chat. Is everybody's day going? It's going fine. I'm going to get in here and find out what's going on with this trial. But glad to see you, Ryan. I hope everything's going. Didn't you say you just started a new job or something like that? I think you might have said. I'm not too sure. But I hope everything's going well on your end, Ryan. I'm glad to see you. All right, say hi to Ryan. Okay, let's get into some of these clips. All right, so I'm kind of like doing this last minute, so I'm gonna be a little bit all over the place. But I got the clips lined up. I hope I got them lined up good. So we're gonna get into clip number 1. Now, this is all gonna be showing about what happened today, day 11 today in the courtroom with the trial. Oh my gosh, it's just a mess. It's just a mess, but stuff is coming out. But bottom line is, ladies and gentlemen, men get abused too. Okay, and it's coming out more and more. But Amber Heard hasn't had her time to say, so we don't know what she's gonna say. But it's just not looking good, not at all. All right, now let's get into it. Everybody, make sure you hit the like button, share your thoughts and opinions in the comment section. Feel free to engage and enjoy the music while I set it up. Now, this first clip I'm going to show. This first clip is, all right, let me read what the title is. This one is Amber Heard stopped paying donations to ACLU after pledging $3.5 million. So let's see what this clip got to say. Amber Heard, you're not looking good, girl. You're not looking good. Mm-hmm.
So do you recognize this document? Donate.
I messed up a little bit. Let me start over again.
And pledge given the reference to the next 10 years? This document. Jump into this.
Now, let's get it.
Jump into this one. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
It says here, Amber, I described your plan to donate $3.5 million to ACLU over the next 10 years, as you very much believe in what they are doing. Now, the way in which donate is used here, how would you interpret that?
I would say that at the very least, it is expressing an intention to make that donation. And it's, by the term plan.
Okay. And would you distinguish between donate and pledge given the reference to the next 10 years?
Awesome, Ryan. Congratulations.
Elon Musk's intention?
I would read this to mean that it isn't.
Everybody put purple hearts out for Ryan. Congratulations.
Intended to be a pledge, a legally binding pledge to create a receivable. This is something that I would want to, what I would hope would be a legally binding pledge, but I wouldn't necessarily say that this was.
Right. And the term donate here, how would you interpret that based on the description you gave a little earlier?
I would take donate to mean contributions from Ms. Heard.
And what, if any, interpretation would you have that this also meant pledge?
So two things in response to your question. One is plan to donate. When I said it would come from Ms. Heard, I would think that that would be either Ms. Heard directly or from a donor advised fund that she has set up and would recommend. But over the next 10 years makes me think that, donate could theoretically be a pledge, but that's something that we would want to attempt to confirm.
And just so I understand, what's the difference between donate and pledge and how you are interpreting this?
If this used the word pledge instead, I would have more assurance that this was intended to be a hard and fast promise that even could potentially be a legally binding promise.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit Number 2. Do you recognize this document? Page 2632.
I do recognize this document.
And what is your understanding of what this is?
That this is the cover letter to which the check for $100,000 was attached, which related to Johnny Depp's contribution to the ACLU in the name of Amber Heard.
I discovered the 8 immortal kings of Samaria lived a total of.
Now, you've used the term binding a few times here in responding to these. What is your distinction with the words pledge and donate that relates specifically to binding?
A pledge is, if something is legally binding, it is a pledge, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody that uses the term pledge means something that's legally binding. Donate is a much, much broader term.
And donate can mean pledge?
Yeah, I think that the word donate can be used in connection with a pledge.
do you have any understanding of what Amber Heard believed was a pledge versus a donation?
I don't know.
Did the ACLU have any reason to believe that Amber Heard would not pay the ACLU $3.5 million?
I think that everybody at the ACLU was hoping, the ACLU was hoping and expecting that the full 3.5 million would be paid to the ACLU. The fact that the pledge form wasn't signed was, cast some potential doubt on that. And then once Ms. Heard began having financial difficulties, we obviously recognized that that might impact whether the full 3.5 million is paid or impact whether it's paid over a much longer period of time in some intermittent way.
Do you have any evidence to suggest that Amber Heard still does not intend to pay the ACLU the full 3.5 million?
I have based on my investigation, I'm not aware of any indication that Ms. Heard has decided to no longer pay additional amounts to the ACLU.
I'm going to ask you to bring up number 4, please. I'm going to ask you to take a look at this document, and it starts out on the bottom with Amber on October 17, 2016 to ARP. Who's that?
That's Anthony Romero's private email, Anthony Romero private.
All right. And she's telling him to go ahead and it's all right to cash Mr. Depp's check. Do you see that?
I do.
And then Mr. Romero responds to her, says, thank you for the response. We will cash the check. But that means you have, quote, overpaid for this year as you wired $350,000 and then the $100,000 from Mr. Depp. So you can keep track that where you are on the overall amounts. Do you see that?
I do.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as deposition defendant's exhibit number 14, and it's base stamp ACLU 2588 through 89. This is, and I realize there was a version of this that Mr. Hugh showed you, but this includes an email from Mr. Romero to Jonathan Moresco, and then Mr. Moresco to Mr. Romero with a copy to Mike Weir. And it says here, hi, Anthony, if you get a chance on Sunday, can you please check in with Amber on her next pledge payment? She has a balance of $2.55 million on her $350,000 10-year pledge. Below is a summary of her other payments. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. And so this has the 500,000 and the 350,000 and the 100,000 on it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that was September 28, 2018. I'm going to show you what has been marked as defendant's exhibit number 15. It's base stamp 2595, and I'm going to make it larger. And if I can show you, we have an email from Mr. Romero saying, is there anything I can do to help facilitate pledge payment of $350,000? And it's dated November 27, 2018. Do you see that?
I do.
All right. And then Amber comes back on 11/29 and says, hang on, I'll be right with you. You see that?
Correct. Yeah, I see it.
Okay. And then the $350,000 payment came in on December 11, 2018, correct?
Correct.
All right. And that made a total of what, 1.3 million we've decided, right? What was the total amount of the donations after the 12/11/2018 that were made towards Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledge to ACLU?
1.3 million.
All right. Now, if Ms. Heard had just given $350,000 each year, what would the amount have been as of December 2018?
1,550,000. It would be 350,000, 350,000, 350,000. So that's 1,050,000.
Okay. And so she was effectively 250,000 ahead of that as of December 2018, correct?
Objection.
After Mr. Depp filed suit against Amber Heard on March 1, 2019, what, if any, payments did Ms. Heard make to the ACLU towards her $2.5 million pledge?
No additional payments.
No, this was also shown to you by Mr. Chu on one of his documents. It's ACLU document 3037, the 12/11/2018 $350,000 donation from Amber Heard Anonymous. Do you see that?
I do.
Now, the ACLU continues to recognize Amber Heard as an ambassador for the ACLU. Is that correct?
We do. She continues to be listed on our website.
May a donor deduct a donation before they actually make the payment to the ACLU?
No. Yeah, a deduction cannot be taken prior to when the deduction is made. A deduction is taken with respect to a tax year, so the deduction would have to be made within a tax year in order for it to be deducted that year.
Okay. Now, you also testified earlier about different sources of donations, and you said that someone can make a donation in honor to fulfill someone else's pledge. Do you recall that testimony?
A person can make a donor in honor of someone else. And when I said in honor of a person, I was more referring to, in memory of a person or in honor of, a new executive director of an organization. People make donations in honor of them. But a person certainly can make a gift and say that I would like to make this gift to the organization because I know that this other person has committed something to the organization and I'd like to pay that amount. A person can do that.
Now, was it your understanding with the letter from Mr. White that Mr. Depp was making a $100,000 payment on behalf of Amber Heard towards her $3.5 million pledge?
Yes, that gift from was in connection with the amounts that Amber had said that she wanted to contribute to the organization.
All right, and it's been your testimony, I think, that there was an error in not including that in your sales force. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, is it also your understanding that Elon Musk made the $500,000 payment towards Amber Heard's $3.5 million pledge?
Yes, we don't know that with absolute certainty, but that is our organization's understanding.
Okay. And you credited it towards Ms. Heard's pledge, correct?
Yes.
Does it matter to the ACLU where it comes from if it's tagged and said it's as part of this person's pledge?
We're always happy to receive funds from donors, and if a donor is unable to make a contribution of an amount that they said they intended to make, if they're able to have someone else make a contribution to the organization, that's completely fine by us.
It's still more money to ACLU, correct?
Correct.
And it's towards a pledge that you're hoping you can count on, correct?
Toward a pledge in the weak form of it, which is that somebody's making an intention. It would not be able to be satisfied in connection with a legally binding pledge.
Well, you did credit the $500,000 towards Amber Heard's pledge, correct?
Yes, we did.
And although you didn't initially credit the $100,000 payment by Mr. Depp towards her pledge, you agree that that should have been credited towards Amber Heard's pledge as well, correct?
Correct.
Now, we saw a document that Mr. Chu showed you a short while ago that indicated that Elon Musk made some other significant contributions, including $1 million and $5 million that were separate and apart from the $500,000, correct? Is that
correct?
Okay. Now, Mr. Chu asked you if the ACLU benefited from the fact that Amber Heard pledged or donated the $3.5 million. And I think your answer was that you benefit, whenever there's donations made and the publicity associated with it. What, if any, benefit would the ACLU have had if Amber Heard pledged or donated 1.3 million as opposed to 3.5 million.
If I understand your question correctly, I think that it is always a positive thing to report on donations made to the ACLU.
Mr. Dougherty, you testified to a number of documents about the op-ed and the back and forth with the attorneys and everything else. Are you aware of any evidence at any stage of the op-ed drafts through publication that Amber Heard did not rely on her counsel's advice?
From what I know, Ms. Heard involved her attorneys and made changes to the op-ed based on the advice of her attorneys.
And so my question is, are you aware of any evidence that would suggest that Amber Heard did not rely on the advice of her attorneys?
Based on my investigation, I'm not aware of a situation where she did not rely on her attorneys.
Thank you. And I'm going to make a reference to their exhibit number 31. This is, it's just called exhibit 31, and Mr. Chu put it in. Jerry Johnson was.
Okay, that was one clip. I'm going to move on to another one. Jack, you want to explain briefly before I move?
Basically, Amber the Devil Heard explicitly stated for this so-called domestic violence delusion that she has been portraying for quite some time, such the devil that she is, but made a pledge to donate millions of dollars to a, I guess, domestic violence. She's the face of a domestic violence survivor. Yeah, but and she has reneged on actually paying all of it. When you make pledges like that, it can be to an extent legal binding. Depends on what the conditions are. And Elon Musk got suckered in paying $500,000, which I'm glad that he learned his lesson. But I don't think he's missing that money anytime soon. Richest man on the planet, so I don't think he's. This
is something you could set out that much money and it just don't.
I mean, this is before he became the richest man on the planet. He was maybe like the bottom 50 richest when he got with Amber. But I guess when he cut her off, he became the richest man on the planet because he had more focus. And she's reneged on it.
All right, well, I'm going to move on to
you know, she claims to be the face of domestic violence. She claims to be standing up for women's rights and for women and all this sort of thing, even though she has an arrest record for assaulting a woman. That's paperwork out there available to the public.
Well, say that we'll get into that one later on. But all right, I'm going to move on to the next one. Thank you, Jack, for explaining that one. Now, the next clip I'm going to show you here with it's going to call it Johnny Depp spent over $14 million during the divorce with Amber Heard. Now, let's check this clip out. Now, like I said, this was all today. We're dealing with day 11, so we got to see about this one. That's a lot of money over a divorce. God dog. Let's get it, ladies and gentlemen.
The purpose of which was to share with him the results of our findings and to make recommendations on how he could resolve the issues he was confronting.
When was that meeting?
That meeting was on April 21st, 2016.
Who called the meeting?
I did. I called the meeting because I felt it was appropriate to meet with Mr. Depp and to discuss his affairs and to provide him with opportunities and plans and strategies to resolve the issues he was confronting.
Where was the meeting held?
It was held at his offices in Los Angeles, California.
Do you know approximately what time it began?
It began at approximately 7:30, and my recollection is there were 7 people in attendance, including Mr. Depp and myself.
Was alcohol served at the meeting?
Not to my recollection. I don't recall any alcohol being consumed.
Did Mr. Depp stay for the entirety of the meeting?
Oh, yes. He was very interested in the contents. He asked very thoughtful questions. He was fully engaged and fully sensitive to the matters that we were discussing.
Did there come a time when Mr. Depp didn't participate in the meeting?
No, he was very actively involved. He did excuse himself on 2 or 3 occasions. It was my understanding that he was going to contact Ms. Heard and attempt to respond to her concerns and also address the fact that this was an extremely important meeting and that it involved his financial viability and that he felt it imperative to stay and address the issues I was discussing with him.
When did the meeting conclude?
At approximately 9:30. So it went for approximately 2 hours.
At the conclusion of the meeting, what did you observe as to Mr. Depp?
That he was fully engaged once again. He thanked me profusely for not only addressing the problems, but he was excited about the fact there was a strategy and plan to resolve the problems.
Did he appear impaired to you in any way?
No, to the contrary, I found him to be.
I'm sorry, sir, there was an objection. What was the objection, sorry? Leading?
Just, I asked him for his observation as to impairment.
Well, if you want to ask different, I'll sustain that objection, but you can ask another question.
Did you make any observations as to Mr. Depp's potential impairment?
It was readily apparent to me that he was actively involved in the conversation. He asked very thoughtful and prudent questions. He was genuinely interested. And once again, when he left, he thanked me profusely for not only addressing the issues, but formulating a strategy and plan to resolve them in a successful manner.
Did you play any role on Mr. Depp's behalf with respect to the dissolution of his marriage to Ms. Heard?
Yes, I was actively involved in the negotiations of the separation and the marriage dissolve.
What role did you play in those negotiations?
Well, in my capacity as his business manager, I understood his financial capacity and the tax implications associated with it. So I was actively involved in addressing those issues as they were forthcoming from counsel.
You mentioned tax implications. What are you talking about there?
Excuse me?
I think you just mentioned tax implications. What are you talking about there?
Well, what I was talking about is that when Ms. Heard began the negotiations, she was asking for approximately $4 million. That
Objection,
balance
Your Honor.
then was
Foundation,
increased.
Hearsay, lack of foundation, hearsay.
These are requests made by Ms. Heard and her counsel in a conversation, in communications.
Here, you want to approach for a minute?
Certainly. As a result of your involvement on behalf of Mr. Depp in the negotiation, what was your understanding of what Ms. Heard was looking for?
She initially was looking for a consideration of $4 million, but her demand continually increased. It went from $4 million to $5 million. Then it went from $5 million to $5.5 million.
Gold
Then
digger.
it went to $7 million. And then it was $7 million, and she demanded that Mr. Depp also pay $500,000 to her attorneys. Then after that consideration, she also said that all the community liabilities that were accumulated
Objection,
during the
Your
course of the
Honor.
marriage, which approximated
Sorry, there's an
13.5 million.
objection, sir. Whenever there's an objection, I'm sorry. If you can't hear it, I'll let you know. Okay?
Thank you. Your
Yeah,
Honor.
no
This
problem,
just
sir.
goes into his allegations of what she said, which Your Honor just struck in.
I wish they would have let him finish. This woman is a gold digger. First of all, y'all two only been married for about a year and a half or something like that before this thing got the separation divorce. You asking for a lot. You didn't contribute anything to this marriage. You lucky to be coming out with something, okay? And then you abused the man too. This woman is insane. She's completely insane. She's out of her flipping mind. I wish he was able to finish what he said, but they cut you off in court. I will resume.
Sustain the objection on that. He has no foundation to suggest that. No knowledge of that.
Your Honor, I understand that. I asked his understanding.
All right, I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
May I continue?
She'll tell you yes.
Yes. Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, good. He continues. I love it. I love it. Continue, sir.
So the next demand was that all of the community liabilities that were unresolved, approximately $13.5 million, that Mr. Depp had to pay those liabilities in its entirety. So at that point, she was demanding $14,250,000 of consideration. And then it got worse. The next demand was that all of this consideration be paid to her free of taxation. And counselor, for him to pay $14,250,000 to Miss Heard, that would require him to earn approximately
Objection, Your Honor.
$30 million.
This is so far beyond the scope, so far beyond his foundation of what was discussed.
All right, I'll sustain that last answer. All right. Next question.
Did you make a proposal as to how payments would be made to Miss Heard?
Yes, I did. And they were initially contemplated to be paid directly to the charities, the Children's Hospital Los Angeles.
All right, say it plugs it in. Perfect. We'll start the car. Need a tap to begin the scan.
For the benefit of the children who required severe medical service and to the ACLU. During the course of the negotiations, one of the demands, because the contract changed, was that the payments be paid
Teresa,
directly
she's
to
a
Ms.
straight
Heard.
up gold digger.
Did you have any personal involvement with either the ACLU or the Children's Hospital?
Yes, I did.
What was that?
Mr. Depp directed me to issue two $100,000 checks directly to the Children's Hospital Los Angeles. I knew that he was involved and supported their efforts and appreciated his service. In addition to that, he directed me to contribute $100,000 to ACLU. In accordance with his instructions, my colleagues drafted the checks, I executed them, and they were delivered to the two charities.
Did you continue making payments to either of those charities on Ms. Heard's behalf?
No, in fact, I was chastised for making the payments by Ms. Heard's counsel and told that the payments in the future had to go
Objection, Your Honor.
directly to her.
This is clear hearsay. He's not answering the question. I would ask for you to instruct him to answer the question and not expound upon his.
I'll sustain as to hearsay. Next question.
What role did you play with respect to the payments ultimately made to Ms. Heard?
We supplied the payments to Ms. Heard in accordance with the agreement, either on or before the date in which they were required to be paid. The first payments made to Ms. Heard was $2 million in 2017. Then in April of 2017, another payment of $1 million made payable directly to Ms. Heard was made. Then in August of 2017, another $1 million was paid directly to Ms. Heard. Then in November, $500,000 was paid directly to Ms. Heard. My colleagues drafted those checks. I executed them. They were delivered on a timely basis. Therefore, in 2017, she was paid $4.5 million directly paid to her. Then on February 1 of 2018, she was paid the final installment of $2.3 million for total payments that went directly to Ms. Heard of $6.8 million.
Do you know when this lawsuit was filed?
Yes, it was filed in March 1, 2019.
Were the payments that were made on Mr. Depp's behalf directly to Ms. Heard the only economic benefit she received?
Objection, leading.
I haven't heard the, go, I'll overrule the objection for us now. Go ahead.
Were the payments made on to Ms. Heard the only economic benefits that she received from the settlement agreement?
No, as I shared with you earlier, Mr. Depp was required to pay $500,000 to Ms. Heard's counsel, which he did in a timely and respectful manner. He was also required to pay all the community liabilities, which accumulated during their 15-month of marriage, was approximately $13,500,000. So he paid all the community liabilities. She paid none of them.
This is really pathetic. They've been only married for 15 months, and she's getting all this money and required to pay all. This is insane. They don't have any children together. You see, this is what I'm talking about with these big age differences. You know, Johnny, you really got caught up with Satan's daughter. There she go, Satan's daughter. You got caught up. Got caught up with the slim blonde, the blue eyes. She came in there with the charm. I resume.
That's why you have to aggregate the money that was paid directly to her, the money that was paid to her, to the charities on her behalf, the money that was paid to her attorneys, and the relief of all these liabilities that he had to satisfy. That's why I said to you, Counselor, that the total consideration paid to her was $14,250,000, and she demanded that that payment be made free of taxation, that Mr. Depp would have to satisfy all the tax liabilities.
How long were they married for?
They were married for 15 months.
Okay. Were the payments that went to Ms. Heard the only payments that you've made on Mr. Depp's?
Ladies and gentlemen, y'all hear this? 15 months of marriage. You know, I used to go in when I was doing a lot of commentary on Dr. Dre, and I went in. Yes, I went in because due to the fact that they was married for 20-something years, 2 kids together, she gave up a career and everything, you know, to be, you know, a housewife and a mother to the children and everything. So that's why, and then she was getting her butt whooped and stuff like that, allegedly. So that's why I was like, she deserves a lot. This woman only put in 15 months. And it seemed like 15 months of hell as I've been watching this. So it wasn't no good 15 months. Excuse me, everybody. Not a good 15 months. And she wants all of this? Insane. Jack, you have something to say real quick while I go on to the next clip?
Just Johnny got a raw deal and Amber's in trouble. Big time. Huge trouble.
Oh,
I mean, he got caught up.
Yes, he
What
did.
happened? He got caught up.
He sure did. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever you're in a relationship with someone and they coming off really hard and strong and so loving and so caring, so quick and so early, and you feel like, oh my God, I found my soulmate, I can't believe it, we're just alike, you need to question that and look back and step back and see if this person is really real. Because you don't really know a person until about a year and a half or to almost 2 years, you know, spending time together, sharing moments with each other, getting to know each other. And he got caught up. Yeah, he sure did. All right. We're going to go into this next clip. Let me share the screen. Well, what is the next clip? What am I showing? All right. This next clip here I'm showing is Johnny Depp and Amber Heard spent $160,000 on wine during their marriage. That's a lot of wine. But well, it probably
Well, I don't know.
they drinking good wine.
Wine is worth tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, that's why I was just getting ready to correct that. So they just drinking very good quality wine. Okay. Let me. All right. Let's get into this one. Let me pause this. This one here is really short. Okay.
Very customary for us to pay everything that Mr. Depp was obligated to pay.
Are you familiar with an entity known as 2020 Wine Merchants?
Yes, I am.
Why are you familiar with it?
It's a prominent purveyor of wine in Los
Objection,
Angeles,
Your Honor,
California.
Foundation, hearsay,
I don't see the hearsay, but I don't know.
foundation at this point.
Can we agree?
Sure, sure.
Look, you're gonna lose the case. Your client is a nutcase. Just let it go. Just let it go. But he's doing his job. I wonder they banging. Ooh, no, I didn't mean to say that. Oh Lord, help me. I take that back.
All right. I think where we left off is I asked you, how were you familiar with 2020 Wine Merchants? And if that's not what I asked you, that's what I'm asking you now.
2020 is a highly recognized purveyor of wine in Los Angeles, along with other companies.
What involvement, if any, did you have with 2020?
I satisfied the liabilities that Mr. Depp incurred, which at the dissolve of their marriage was approximately $160,000.
Do you continue to pay Mr. Depp's wine bill?
Yes, I do. We pay all of his obligations, but his wine bill has shrunk to virtually zero because he does not consume that much in the way of wine. He's made a few gifts around Christmas time, but his wine bill has gone to virtually zero.
Are you familiar with a Spanish wine known as Vega Sicilia?
Yes.
How are you familiar with that?
I know that it is a very expensive wine, and that I know that Ms. Heard enjoyed drinking the wine.
How much does it cost?
The cost of the wine is approximately $500 a bottle.
Your husband is buying you $500 a bottle for wine. This is what he gets in return, huh? You had yourself a serious gold digger. I resume.
Were you ultimately charged with paying for the wine that was served on at the birthday party on April 21, 2016?
Yes, I was. We rendered the
Objection,
payment for that
Foundation.
balance.
I'll overrule the objection. It's fine.
How many bottles of Vega Sicilia were served?
At Ms. Heard's request, she ordered 5 bottles of the wine and 8 bottles of other wine. So a total of 13 bottles of wine.
Thank you, Mr. White. I have no other questions
All right,
this
Cross.
witness at this time.
You have a brief thought about the $500 bottle of wine? This is insane.
I mean, that's not bad. I mean, people spend up to $10,000 for a bottle of wine.
Yeah, I'm not knocking because you know that they have that kind of money they can do. But I'm just saying the fact that she's just a gold digger, how she just wants this and wants that. She was just draining his pockets. She didn't care. It was all
She
about her.
started draining Elon Musk's pockets till he smartened up and got the hell out of there.
Mhm. Glad he ain't marry her. Okay,
Thank
Liz.
God.
Mm-hmm. All right. I got another clip. Okay. Let me get ready to share this one. All right, let me share the next clip, ladies and gentlemen. This is all today, day 11. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get it.
Do work on behalf of Mr. Depp?
Oh, I didn't say it. All right, the name of this clip was today is Johnny Depp's debt overweight his income, says business manager, and that's the guy we see right here. Johnny Depp debt overweight his income, says business manager. Mm-mm-mm.
We were engaged in March
Engaged.
of 2016, if that's your question.
Right. Around February 10th, is that when you were first contacted?
I do not recall the date.
And you said you were introduced by executives, a guy named Richard Smith at the Bank of California.
Yes,
Mr. Depp owed significant amount of money to the Bank of California at that time, correct?
no.
He owed money to the Bank of California, correct?
I do not recall that he had an active indebtedness with the Bank of California. He had other commercial loans, but not with the Bank of California.
And after you were brought on, you developed an understanding that Mr. Depp's financial status was very challenging, correct?
It was challenging, but we had an ability to resolve the problems if they were properly addressed.
He had liquidity problems, right?
He had substantial assets in excess of his liabilities, but he had short-term obligations that needed to be satisfied.
Let me just ask that again. At the time that you were brought on, he had liquidity problems, correct?
Can you define liquidity for me?
Hey, pause that, Donna.
Time he was brought on, he had liquidity problems, correct?
I think the cross examiner, whatever, this is the kind of person you don't want on the stand. Somebody who is extremely articulate and very technical with every word you say. That's a prosecutor's worst defense attorney's worst nightmare.
Interesting.
Because you can notice when he line up the question, this business manager is running circles around his questions.
Interesting. Okay. I resume, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Jack.
I'm asking you, at the time he was brought on, he had liquidity problems, correct?
I would define the term liquidity as where the short-term assets are less than the short-term, are less.
I started doing microdermabrasion and procedures to my skin.
Than the short-term liabilities. And if that's how you define liquidity, I would agree.
In layman's terms that I can understand, because I don't speak all the kind of business school terms that you speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's coming in. Please hit the like and feel free to engage. If not, you can just sit back and just listen and enjoy. All right. This is day 11 in trial with Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. I resume.
He didn't have enough money at the time, correct? He was spending more than he was bringing in, correct?
Yes.
And you gave him advice about how he could hopefully get out of that problem, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And just to be clear, Mr. White, because you've testified to some degree of knowledge about wine that you allege that Ms. Heard requested. So you seem to have some knowledge of Mr. Depp's spending. Ms. Heard didn't buy any of the dozens of properties that Mr. Depp owned, correct?
Correct. He owned the assets prior to their marriage.
She didn't pay $5 million to blast Hunter Thompson's ashes out of a cannon, did she?
Not to my knowledge.
She didn't buy a yacht that she couldn't afford and then have to sell it to J.K. Rowling, did she?
Not to my knowledge.
Now let's talk about that meeting on April 21st, 2016. You said the meeting started at about 7:30 p.m.?
Yes.
And lasted till maybe 9:30, is that right?
Yes.
And you have no idea, no personal knowledge where Mr. Depp went after he left that meeting, do you?
That is correct. I did not go with him. I went home.
And at that meeting, Mr. Depp was given some catastrophic news about his business, correct?
He was given news that he needed to address a number of financial issues, but I had a strategy and plan to fully resolve them.
That news that he was given that night was catastrophic, wasn't it?
No.
May I approach, Your Honor?
All right. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. White, let's do this again with another under oath series of statements. You gave testimony in the UK trial, did you not?
Yes.
And that testimony was under oath, correct?
Yes.
All right. And in front of you, I have your testimony from the UK trial, and you gave that testimony on behalf of Mr. Depp, correct?
I gave it honestly.
Okay. You gave it on behalf of Mr. Depp, correct? You were one of his witnesses called.
That is correct.
Okay. Can you please turn to page 865? And it's just the second page of the document, upper left. Before that, the questions are talking about this meeting on April 21st, 2016. And you were asked the question, now Mr. Depp was given some catastrophic news about his business. Answer, that is correct. Did I read that right?
You did, but remember,
That was just
when
my
I get a
question.
chance
You
to
answered my
respond,
question, sir. You answered
I
my
did not
question.
define that.
Sir, you'll have a chance. The attorney will get back up and redirect you. Okay, so if you could just answer his question, that's fine.
And the reason I'm asking, sir, is because you just gave the exact opposite testimony here. So that's why we pointed that out. Now, you at this meeting, you had a discussion about his financial affairs and a necessity to formulate a revised business strategy and plan, correct?
Yes.
And you talked about the following financial information. You talked about bank obligations and tax liabilities, right?
Yes.
Which means money you owe to either the government or banks, correct?
Yes.
You talked about assets that he needed to sell, correct?
Yes.
Properties and things like that he needed to sell to generate money.
Correct.
You talked about ways to reduce spending, correct?
Yes.
And you talked about how to get new engagements, correct?
Yes.
How to get new gigs, right?
Not how to get them, but
The
I
need to
encouraged
get them.
him to get them. I'm not an
Understood.
agent.
I
do
appreciate
not
that.
procure his engagements.
And understood. You talked about the need to get new gigs to generate additional money to help address these financial woes that he was experiencing, correct?
Yes.
You also told him at that meeting that his taxes, he hadn't paid taxes in years, correct?
No, that's not correct, that he had not paid any taxes. This is not correct.
That he was significantly delinquent in federal tax obligations dating back years, correct?
I don't know how you're defining years. There were delinquent liabilities. I addressed them and formulated a plan.
And you talked about the significant delinquent tax liabilities that would run into the millions of dollars for taxes unpaid, correct?
That is correct.
And so after receiving this catastrophic news, as we discussed, you have no idea where Mr. Depp went when he walked out of the doors of his office, correct?
I do not know
Okay.
where he went.
Can you pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 936, please? And Mr. White, I'm not gonna, this is a long document that we can scroll through, but what I'll represent to you and Michelle can sort of scroll down is that these appear to be Mr. Depp's tax returns for Mr. Depp and his companies from 2009 to 2019. Do you see that?
Yes.
And these are returns as part of your role as his CPA firm now, his business manager firm now. Your firm prepares these tax returns, correct?
Yes,
And you maintain these tax returns in the ordinary course of your business, correct?
that is correct.
Your Honor, I know there's going to be plenty of redaction to do, but I just would like to move these into evidence. I don't plan to publish them or anything at this point.
You want to approach?
It's getting more ugly. Do you have anything to say before I go on to the next clip? Guess not. All right, I'm going to move on to the next clip, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Give me a second while I set it up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this clip I'm showing, like I say, is all today. This is he walked into a door, or a door walked into him, says the bodyguard about Johnny Depp. Did he really walk in the door? Did Amber Heard do something to him? Don't know. Let's see what this clip has to say. Let's get it.
And Mr. Connolly, are you able to see the picture on, I assume you can see it on your screen.
Yeah, just a second, please. Yeah, hi, yeah.
And do you,
yeah, I know that picture, I took that picture.
you took the,
pictures on the, yeah, I took the picture.
can you just quickly tell us what this picture is?
This picture is Miss Heard and Johnny's honeymoon on the Orient Express on the East Line from Bangkok to Singapore. You travel through Malaysia, stopping at Kuala Lumpur and a few other places on the way down. And that is in the the dining coach, I think. Yeah, dining coach, that's what that is. The guy on the left there with the silver band around he's the waiter. He's the waiter with the detail to look after us. The guy in the bow tie, he's guest relations manager.
Mr. Connolly, just hold on one second. Before we continue describing the document, I'd move for the admission of Plaintiff's Trial Exhibit 162 and that it be published to the jury.
Any objection?
I'd like to approach it.
Okay.
I don't know if they're going to show it, but his face was really bloody. And I guess they're saying that this was on the honeymoon, if I'm correct what they just said in the beginning. Drama on the honeymoon. Resume.
Ramen that's healthy, wholesome, and jam-packed with life-sustaining protein. No, it's not magic. It's the special cooking technique we use that eliminates
You can publish it.
All right, and Mr. Connolly, I apologize for cutting you off, but could you just continue to describe for us what we're looking at in this picture?
Yeah, as I said, the guy in the bow tie, he's guest relations manager. He was detailed to, fix us up anything we needed. To excursions and transports and stuff. Then it's misheard.
Ladies and gentlemen, you see this?
The guy, that's the chef who looked after this. He cooked for us. He's a great chef, by the way. Yeah, he looked after us. And that's Johnny. And I also noticed, if you look at that picture, like I said, on the left-hand side, under his eye, there's a swelling. And you see a swelling just on the left-hand side of his nose and under his left eye.
And what do you interpret that swelling to be?
So what do I interpret it as? That's either he's walked into a door or a door's walked into him.
Okay. Can you tell us anything, and we can take this down, I think. Thank you. Mr. Connolly, can you tell us, well, first of all, do you recall what year Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard went on their honeymoon in the picture we were just looking at?
That would, I don't know, is it 2013? 2013?
Okay, and were you, well, you testified that you took the picture, so you were there, I assume?
Absolutely, yes.
What can you tell us about that trip generally, and particularly focused on how Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard were interacting with each other?
Started off good. Johnny's cabin was maybe 15 meters down the corridor from mine. There was no cabins in between. There was like storerooms, like, blankets and cutlery and stuff. So the cabin was quite not a big massive distance, but it wasn't like the trip started fine, absolutely fine. I think it was 5 days maybe. 2 days, 3 days into the trip, I can see Johnny going down. I can see him coming down. He's just not enjoying this. He's not enjoying this. But I can't. It's not my business to step in and that. I just do my job, but I can see he's not enjoying this. He's not happy. He's not happy.
Did you ever observe any arguments between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in this time frame?
Just not arguments, but some frostiness. Ms. Heard sort of demanded that we have our own dining cart, if you like. So me doing my job, I inquire to the guest relations guy there that you've seen in the photograph. And he quite rightly tells me that, there's other
Objection, hearsay. Objection, hearsay.
All right. Objection to hearsay. All right.
I think we can move on.
Okay, I'll sustain objection. Next question.
All right, so Mr. Connolly, well, taking a step back for a minute and changing topics slightly, have you ever seen Mr. Depp use any drugs? I don't think
I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Yes, I've seen him smoke marijuana. I had my suspicions. I have my suspicions that when he goes off to the bathroom, he probably does a bit of cocaine. I've never seen him do it, as Mr. Depp would never do a line or anything of cocaine in front of me, or Jerry Judge, or Sean Bett, or anybody. Johnny Depp would never compromise my license, my position, and embarrass me like that. It wouldn't happen. So to answer to your question, I've seen him smoke weed, yes.
You noticed any particular, what changes, if any, have you noticed in his behavior when he's under the influence of marijuana?
To be honest, a bit more relaxed, no sort of uptight. But he's not out of his head. He's perfectly functioning. I mean, you can talk about anything, any conversation you want to talk about. He's neither up nor down with that. You know, he really isn't. He's got.
What's up, guys? Alex here from ZBEC. Today, I'm excited to show you our newest product, the ZBEC Tri-Screen 2. This is a laptop.
For any substance, Johnny, you know, I would say so, you know. I think Jack Sparrow's more drunk than Johnny Depp, to be honest.
So, okay, so that's marijuana. What about alcohol? Same question.
He used to like a wine, and the last I would say the last couple of years that's dropped drastically as well. It's in my last year with Johnny, it's quite actually rare now. It's not rare, but he's not a big boozer now. He's not a boozer now, you know. He's not, and he was never out his head in wine. He was never, you know. I think I've seen drunk in the 20 odd years I've been with Johnny. I think I've seen him drunk twice. And but when I say drunk, I mean drunk. Other than that, there's not a lot of difference in Johnny's demeanor or behavior. Well, he's drinking alcohol or smoking weed, you know.
Okay, and finally, same question for the time periods when you formed the suspicion that he was under the influence of cocaine.
Sorry, what was that? Sorry, could you ask me that again?
What changes in his behavior, if any, did you observe on those occasions when you suspected but didn't know for sure that he was under the influence of cocaine?
Well, again, due to the training I had in you know, the HMP prison service, it just seemed a bit more, I don't know, happier, up, not so down, you know. But I wouldn't say he's not leaping around kicking his heels or anything. He pick his guitar up and then he gets right into his guitar, and there's no major changes really. You know, he's fine, you know.
Okay. Now you mentioned you traveled with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard on their honeymoon on the Orient Express. Where else have you traveled with them?
I have another clip. It's gonna get into it. Jack, you want to say something real quick, and I'll set up for the next clip. Guess not. All right. Let me set up for the next clip. This is all today, day 11, ladies and gentlemen. And before I get into this next clip, this woman should have been arrested. She has a lot of nerves. Did you see his face? Mm. All right, let me get into this next one. All right, this clip here is called Johnny Depp's Bodyguard Testifies About Australia Finger Incident. And I believe they talking about this. I think. Could be that. Yeah, probably, most likely. He lost some of his finger messing with her. All right, let me play it. Let's get it.
Discussing the substance of any communications that you had with Mr. Depp or his security, and just focus on what you observed.
Okay. I arrive at Johnny's accommodation with my driver, Andrew. I notice that there's an SUV, one of the security, the RST, resident security team. One of their vehicles is sitting outside the door with no driver. So I just assume there's, well, something up. There's a security car there, but no driver. As I approach the door, I hear a muffled shouting and screaming, and you know, quite muffled though, because the entrance to this house, there's a massive oak door. I mean, it's huge, and it's got to be about 25 mil thick. So I open it, and it's chaos. It's screaming and shouting, but all I can see with my eyes is Johnny. He's wearing a jacket, a hat, and a bag with his notebooks. And I always know that bag because it's a grey canvas bag.
Very disturbing news out of Vernon Central High School. What's going on?
And he's sort of, nursing one hand. So I'm saying, well, hey, what's going on? And it's screaming and shouting. It's madness. Amber's irate. I mean, tenacious. It's crazy stuff. Johnny's, shouting back. So I've said, Johnny, let's go. Let's get out, that's my job, to remove him from a situation. Let's get out. I do a couple of steps with him. Johnny, give me 5 minutes, Mal. 5 minutes. Well, he's the boss, There's no bullets flying. So, okay, give him 2 minutes. I say, let's go. Eventually, I get him out. I managed to get him outside the door. We go downstairs. But Amber appears from somewhere. Now, I don't know if Amber was upstairs or in the room to the left or wherever, but she appears and she's screaming, berating him. She's basically berating him. Yes, fuck off, she's saying, Johnny. Yeah, that's what you do. Fuck off. That's what you do all the time. That's all you ever do is fuck off. You fuck off with your guys. You're a fucking coward. That's what you fucking do. You fucking coward. Yeah, fuck off with your guys. You big man. All that shit that goes with it. Gets him downstairs. By this time, Amber's on the threshold of the accommodation. She's screaming, fuck off, you fucking coward. That kind of words, And I get him into the car, and I want to sit in the same. I usually sit in the front seat shotgun, but I want to sit in the same seat at the back, so I can have a look what's going on here and have a chat and have a talk. But when I get around the car, the driver's not locked the door, so he's out the door again, and he's making his way back up the stairs. I get back round again. By the time I get to the top, there's two concrete stairs to the front door. He's just crossing the threshold, and the screaming starting again. Excuse me. Amber is screaming again. Johnny, let's go. And this time it's a wee bit more force, and I managed to actually basically pull him out of the place. Get him into the car. Doors are locked this time. Into the car, we take off. I got him back to my apartment using, a sort of secret way through the underground car park and service lifts. I get him up to my apartment, get him into my apartment, start washing his hand, basic triage in his hand, washing it, first aid. It's a mess. His finger's just a mess. It's like one of them cartoon exploding cigars. I always think in my mind that one of them cigars that blow up, the cartoons boom. And it's so flapping around. And I can see bone. There's bone there. It's smashed to bits. And he's wincing as I'm trying to wash his hand. Anyway, I sit him down and I phoned Debbie the nurse, who's living in the same apartment block as me. So that's my first thing, phone Debbie. Phone Debbie. About 20 minutes later, if that, I don't recall, maybe 25, maybe half an hour. But she turns up with Dr. Kipper. So Dr. Kipper does his thing. Nurse Debbie dresses it all, but Kipper is saying, right, this we have to go to the hospital with this. There's no other way. We have to go to the hospital. This has to be seriously looked at. We get to the hospital, and that's when that's when his treatment started,
Okay. When you were in the presence of Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in the house in Australia, how far away were you from Ms. Heard?
When I first entered the house, Miss Heard wasn't visible to me. Only Johnny. It's only when we started to leave, Miss Heard appeared, and she's probably, well, you're talking 2 feet, 3 feet.
Did you observe any injuries on Ms. Heard?
No injuries. No injuries.
I'll allow it.
I'm sorry, what was your answer?
No injuries, none.
Other than the injury to his finger, did you observe any injuries on Mr. Depp?
No, no. Well, I say no. There was a mark in his face, and I didn't know what that was, so I never really put it down too much. But in the hospital, I took a photograph, and when I look at that photograph, I can see 2 injuries. When we're sitting in the car,
hold on, Mr. Khan.
Okay. Objection to the extent he's going to be talking about what the mark is on his, since he didn't see what happened and he's not a doctor, we can't describe what.
That's fine, Your Honor. We
can move on. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next question.
I think you've generally described for us the kinds of things Ms. Heard was saying. How would you describe her overall demeanor when she and Mr. Depp were in each other's presence in the house in Australia?
Good days and bad days.
I'm sorry, I mean on that particular day.
On that particular day, I had never seen him in the house that particular day. The only time I seen Miss Heard and Johnny in that house is when I arrived there to extract them.
And how did Miss Heard seem to you when you saw her on that day when you arrived to extract him?
Crazy. Fierce, fierce.
Okay. What was the last thing Miss Heard said as you were taking Mr. Depp out of the house to go to your apartment and then the hospital?
Yeah, the last words I recall hearing as I'm getting Johnny out is, yeah, just fuck off with your guys, you fucking coward like you always do.
All right. I have no further questions.
All right, cross-examination, Mr. Nadelhoff.
Mr. Connolly, you still.
Everybody vote. Okay. Would you like to say something before I go on to the last? I have one more clip, ladies and gentlemen, and that'll be the last one. The next clip is about 10 minutes. Jack, you have something to say?
No, just the bodyguard would just explain his side.
Then we have some more here. All right, this will be the last clip I'm going to show. This whole thing was like 8 hours long, so I'm just showing the clips today because 8 hours is long. But what day am I doing? This Sunday. I'll be showing day 8 because that was very interesting. You get to hear a lot of the audio of this crazy chick right here. All right. Give me a second while I show. Do I have it set up? Yes, I do. Wait a minute, I'm confused. Come on, I can't be messing up now. I was doing so well. Oh, I'm not confused. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this clip that I'm going to be showing here it's called Amber Heard Claims a Horrible Practical Joke Gone Wrong, says Johnny Depp's bodyguard. Interesting. All right, so this is about like 9 minutes, a little over 9 minutes. Let's get it.
Attention to April 21st. Mr. Jenkins, turning your attention to April 21st, 2016. Can you tell the jury what you recall about that day?
Could you repeat the question, sir?
Sure. So turning your attention to April 21st, 2016, can you tell the jury what you recall about that day?
It was the birthday party being held at the penthouse.
And when you say the penthouse, what are you referring to?
It's the Eastern Columbia building.
And what were you doing that evening?
That evening, I was assigned security on the detail.
Were you inside the residence while the birthday party was taking place?
I was in the CP, the command post that's stationed on the same floor, right outside of the elevator.
And did you interact with Ms. Heard at all that evening?
Yes, I did. In regards to getting her clients keys, parking, making sure no one else was on the floor that wasn't invited to the party.
Were there any issues at the birthday party at the time that you were present at the penthouses?
No issues except for the boss did not show up.
And do you recall what time you left that day?
11:15 p.m. that evening.
And Mr. Jenkins, what happened the next day, April 22nd, 2016?
I arrived early, 10:45, went upstairs to the penthouse. I was informed by Amber that she got in a fight with Johnny last night. She threw his personal property over the balcony into the streets, 9th and Broadway.
And when you say personal property, what are you referring to?
His phone, wallet, credit cards, passports, everything that's in his wallet.
Did Ms. Heard say anything else to you about this altercation?
Nothing except they were fighting.
So what did you do after Ms. Heard and
when people look at films that are super beloved and then they hear
Mr. Depp's personal property off the balcony?
Formulated a plan with Norm from the office to use the Find My Phone app, hit the streets, and try to get lucky.
Did you end up finding Mr. Depp's phone?
Yes, I did. In Skid Row, probably 6 miles from the house.
And who had the phone?
A homeless gentleman, unhoused gentleman. I approached him about the phone. He was honest. He returned it. I gave him a reward for it.
And what was the reward?
$420, chicken tacos, chips, apples, Fiji water.
After finding Mr. Depp's phone, what did you do?
I returned to the penthouse, showed the phone to Amber that I retrieved it. I left it in the CP for the evening security to return it to Mr. Depp.
So after figuring out things with the phone, what happened next?
What happened next is I walked Amber to the car. We got everybody in the car. She's on her way to Coachella. I went back to the penthouse to retrieve the dogs and the luggage.
Were you also going to Coachella with Miss Heard?
Yes, I was. I was the transportation for Amber and her friends while she was at Coachella.
So how did you get to Coachella?
Drove the SUV provided by Johnny with the animals and all the luggage in and headed out to the venue.
And the morning of April 22nd, did you see any injuries on Miss Heard?
No marks, no injuries.
And so driving out to Coachella, did anyone drive with you?
I was in the car alone except for the animals.
And how did Miss Heard get to Coachella?
She drove a Mustang.
Was anyone else in her car?
She was with, I believe, her sister and one other friend, her assistant, Savannah.
And do you know how many days Miss Heard and her friends were planning to stay at Coachella?
So the following Monday, I believe it's the 25th of April, we departed.
And do you recall where Miss Heard was staying at Coachella?
We were staying at the Parker boutique hotels there in Palm Springs, outside of Coachella.
Were you also staying at the Parker Hotel?
I also stayed there.
And so did you attend Coachella for work or for pleasure?
For work.
And what was your job that weekend?
Provide security and transportation, animal care, Amber's rolling assistant, take care of her, whatever she needed while she was there at the Parker or in out traveling.
Do you recall what time approximately you arrived at the hotel on April 22nd?
Around 5:30ish, maybe 5:45.
And what did Miss Heard and her friends do that evening, April 22nd?
That evening, we arrived. We were assigned the rooms. We went with the staff of the Parker Hotel around to the suite where we were staying. They let us in. We let all the luggage in, and we proceeded to plan for that evening to depart by 7:15ish to get to the festival then.
And how did Miss Heard and her friends get from the hotel to the festival that evening?
I drove them directly to there.
And did you have any discussions with Miss Heard on the way to Coachella that evening?
We had a conversation pertaining to the surprise she left in the boss's bed prior to leaving the apartment.
And when you refer to the surprise in the boss's bed, what are you referring to?
The defecation.
And what did Miss Heard say about the defecation in Mr. Depp's bed?
A horrible practical joke gone wrong.
Mr. Jenkins, what observations did you make about Miss Heard at Coachella in April 2016?
She had no worries. She was there to whoop it up. It's her birthday. She's with her friends.
And how often were you with her that weekend?
Was with her every day. She went to the venue from the time that we interacted with the wallet incident, the night before at the party, all the way until Monday. We returned with the pets and the luggage.
And did you observe anything about Miss Heard's health that weekend?
She got sick.
Do you know
She got sick at the venue second night.
Do you know what caused Miss Heard to be sick?
She was eating the magic mushrooms and drinking red wine on an empty stomach.
And how do you know?
Magic mushrooms.
She's a druggie, but they want to talk about Johnny being a druggie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she wants to put him up because, like, the earlier court cases, the court dates, he was like, trying to put him down. Oh, he's a big time druggie and all this kind of stuff. But chick, you was getting high with him. But see, thing is different is you want to get high and start want to put hands on a person. He just want to go to the back and play his guitar and relax. Oh gosh, what a mess. I resume.
Know that she drank red wine and took magic mushrooms.
I saw the room service and I went to their room to collect them to take them out that evening.
So is that something? Excuse me. Is that something you witnessed?
I witnessed it.
And what did you do in response to Miss Heard being sick at Coachella?
I collected her, got her in the vehicle. She didn't want anyone else to know that she was sick. Take her back to the Parker alone. I took her to the 7-Eleven where I retrieved hydrating fluids, Advil, and let her have those.
Should have took her to the emergency room.
To the suite and went back to pick up everyone else.
And Mr. Jenkins, when you said Miss Heard got sick, do you recall what her symptoms were?
Yeah, she was throwing up.
Mr. Jenkins, did you see any injuries of any kind on Miss Heard April 22nd, 2016?
No injuries.
A sustain. So yes.
What about the rest of that weekend, Mr. Jenkins? Any injuries that you saw?
No injuries.
Have you ever witnessed any physical abuse between Mr. Depp and Miss Heard?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Nothing further.
All right, cross-examination.
And so when you arrived at the house and went in, was it just Mr. Depp and Amber Heard?
Just Mr. Depp and Amber Heard.
Okay. And before
there may be someone else there. I never visibly seen anyone else. I wasn't there long enough to chat to anybody.
And when you arrived at the house, you could hear a ruckus, correct?
Yes. Well, yes, I could hear. Yeah, I could hear. Definitely hear something through the door. Yeah.
But you said the door was so thick you couldn't hear the actual words that were being said. Is that right?
No, just a shouting.
And then you went in the house and saw Mr. Depp in the foyer, correct?
Yes, correct.
And Mr. Depp was trying to urinate in the foyer, wasn't he?
No.
Mr. Depp had his penis out of his pants,
Objection.
didn't he?
I think I would remember.
Relevance.
Mr. Depp penis.
I'll allow. Next question.
And you were trying to get Mr. Depp out of the house, correct?
Correct. I was trying to get Mr. Depp out of the house, yes.
And Mr. Depp was refusing to leave the house, was he not?
Not so much refused. He just wanted 2 minutes to say his piece.
You took Mr. Depp's arm to try to move him out, but he broke away. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, so he was strong enough to break away from your grip, correct?
No.
So you had his arm and he broke away, though, correct?
No.
Isn't that what you just said?
No, I let him go.
You let go. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't
I'm not
easy.
going to drag him by it.
So Mr. Depp's your boss. You'll do what Mr. Depp wants, correct?
Well, I just wanted to show that 1 minute clip. Oh, I'll tell you, it gets so crazy in the courtrooms.
Yeah, he said it. Johnny Depp urinating in front of you. Like what?
But Judge Depp just had to
These
laugh.
prosecutors may be quiet, tearing up.
Like, where did that come from? This woman is insane. And this should be her being on trial to be arrested, to go be convicted. Forget defamation. This woman is dangerous. She's gonna keep hitting on men. She's gonna meet the wrong one. Mm-hmm. Well, she is now. Well, basically, she is now. She's paying for it. Everything is out in the open. I don't think too many men is gonna want to be around her. But somebody's gonna get caught up in the beauty. So, you know how it goes. All right, you have any closing thoughts? Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? You can put in the chat real quick, because that's all the clips I'm going to show you
I
this
think this
evening.
is going to be a lengthy trial.
Yeah, they said it's going to go on for at least about a month or longer.
Maybe longer than that.
Yeah, I'm here. It's going to be a minute with this whole thing. Well, I know I'm following it all. I got to catch up from the ones in the beginning because I missed so much of it. But I'm catching up. All right. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. So sorry I started so late. Didn't get home until late. But stay tuned for some more of Donna Just Being Real commentary. And remember, date smart, not thirsty. Be careful you get with. Age difference does take a play in relationship. I hate to say it. It is what it is. You have to be very careful. I mean, vice versa. Woman with a young guy, or the young woman with an older guy. Either way, when you start dealing with, I'm talking about age difference to the point that they could be your parent. You know what I mean? And they like around your kid's age. Yeah, there's something just not cool with that. I feel that's just my opinion. Everybody might feel differently. And thank you for the Purple Hearts. And Ryan, if you're still there, congratulations and blessings to everyone. And I guess that's all I have to say, because it's going on. It's going to be 11 o'clock soon. Lordy. All right. Again, I said date smart, not thirsty. Bye.